Okay, so we're recording and I'm just going to get us started. Hi, Lissa, it's Jana, and I'm here with Annette Anderson, and I'm just going to get her read in so that we can get our podcast going. So 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Annette Anderson. Well, Annette's path has been filled with various adventures and experiences. Many have been adventures of happiness, while others have been adventures of difficult loss and heartache. Annette has been married for 36 years. She and Mark count each other as best friends. Annette has been a successful entrepreneur, inventor. She is a survivor. While spending most of her adult life working with other women in developing financial strategies, helping and counseling others, and creating a life of significance. Annette claims no special understanding or wisdom. Her experience comes from life's lessons. She believes that experience is the greatest teacher. Life's experience has refined her and allowed her to become who she is today. And if she can help one other person along their trial of life, all the pain and shame and suffering will have been worth it. Oh my gosh, I love your intro. You are amazing. And we've spoke before, and I'm really excited to have you here today, Annette. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be with you and joining you on your show.
I know that one of the things we do is we share a story of hope, because I am like you. I feel like if our message gets out there and hits just that one person maybe that it was meant for, and it creates change and this beautiful ripple effect out in the world, that we've really done our job. So would you mind sharing your story with us?
I would be happy to. So my story is an interesting one, I believe. One, like in the intro, it says one full of adventures, and some joyful and some not so not so happy and pleasant. But what I have learned along the way in my journey is that there always is hope, and that um, during my journey, I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one who had experienced the things that I had experienced. And so all along the way, as I was trying to heal and I was going through these things, I just, there were times I wanted to give up. There were times I thought this is too hard. But I knew I couldn't give up. I didn't want to really give up. And I thought, if I can learn, if I can heal, if I can progress and just help one person along their journey, then it would have been worth it. So I grew up in a situation in a home that I had a lot of trauma in my early years, and things that I didn't understand why I felt the way I felt as I became a teenager. And I was always kind of looking outside and watching people and watching dynamics of other families, and wanting to feel this love and this security and this inclusion. And later on, I was blessed with my best friend, and we began our journey together. And I was 19. I was young, and we've had an incredible journey. And so here we are, and we had 4 children, and life was going along, and we were happy. And I had kind of pushed some of these feelings and thoughts to the side and just trying to stay in the present. And as a young married family with these 4 young children, there's not much you're doing besides taking care of the kids and fixing dinner and just doing all these things, just trying to keep going. And when our daughter was young, I started my first business, because we were poor college students. And so I kind of was a person that I just had ideas, and then I would try to think, well, how can I make that work in a business where I could help, provide for our family and bring some money in and create something that we can do together as a family. So I started doing these things along the way. And then one year, our son was diagnosed with a brain tumor. He was 8 years old. And his teacher called one afternoon and told us, he was in second grade, and said, "Have you noticed how his hands tremor?" And it was very, you're learning to write and do all these things. And she was working with him, and she noticed this tremor. And I hadn't really noticed that before. And one thing led to another, where we felt like we should go to the doctors and just, see what the doctor thought and to get some things checked out. And the doctor was concerned, and he had an MRI, and that's where we discovered that he had this tumor, and it was right in the center of his brain. And it was something that chemotherapy or radiation, it couldn't take care of this problem, because this tumor wasn't, it wouldn't respond to chemotherapy. And because of the location, they couldn't do even a gamma knife radiation treatment, because of what it would have killed in the pathway to getting to this tumor. So as he grew, as he developed, and as these growth spurts, then this tumor continued to grow as well. So all these years we were dealing with pain management, the unknown, because they couldn't tell us what would happen, because you didn't really find these tumors unless something tragic happened and they had gone in and done an autopsy or something. So we lived many years with chronic headaches, and just like I said, dealing with the effects of this tumor. A lot of time at Primary Children's Hospital. We were so grateful to live near one of the world-renowned children's hospitals, and some of the best doctors really in the world. And they did their best. And I remember one day when he was 16, and it was parent-teacher conference. And I went to parent-teacher conference, and his English teacher told me he's not doing the homework. I'm sure he hasn't read, because he did really poorly on this test. And the light bulbs went off inside me, because he had asked me to not tell his teachers when he went to high school. He wanted to be a normal kid, right? And so here I go, and I try to explain to this teacher about this tumor. And she looked at me, and I know she didn't believe me right off the bat. And I thought, what mother would come up with a story like this, for their child? But in the end, that's what it was. But later that day, I talked to our son, Reed, and I asked him, I said, how are you feeling? How are those headaches? And all the things that would happen when it would grow. And he finally admitted that he was having problems, and that he was having problems with his vision. And when he would read, he couldn't remember what he read. So I called to the hospital, and we scheduled an MRI. And it was early December. And the doctor, the scheduler said, well, we'll get you in January. And I said, no, we need to get in now. And they said, well, we're busy. And I said, then have us in at night. We've done these MRIs at night. So I had to kind of push a little bit. And because we had been in there a few months before and had the routine MRI that was scheduled every few months, every 6 months. And the next day I get a call early in the morning from the doctor's office, and it was, how soon can you get here? And I knew, when you get a phone call like that, it's not good news. And so I went. They wanted me to pick up our son and come up. So I went to school and got him, checked him out, and went to the hospital. And we heard all the case. It had tripled in size. It would kill him if we did nothing, and it would probably kill him if we attempted surgery. At this point, technology had developed, and he was the 6th person in the world that they had attempted this specific surgery on. And I sat there with a lump in my throat. My husband was out of town on business, and my son said, I want it out. And I looked at the doctor, and I just said, then let's try. And one thing led to another, and we had 5 more years with our son that we count as a gift. The surgery was not perfect, but he lived, and they learned a lot because of his surgery, and have been able to help other others in that situation because of what they learned from what happened to him in that surgery. So there was a lot that I learned just from that experience. And that experience of how to find hope, how to find joy amid this tragedy, really, of knowing that you have a child that is ill like that, but you can't fix the problem. You can't fix the, you can't take those debilitating constant migraines away. That, you know, you didn't know whether he would be able to, his vision would be perfect or it would not be perfect. I'm so grateful he had great friends that they knew, you know, because he wanted to be normal. He looked normal. He, you know, looked like this healthy kid, and he would, you know, he could be there in a program at school, in a choir program, and next thing you know, he's unconscious. And then, you know, but there was never a sign of, you know, oh, this is going to happen or this is going to happen. You just never knew. But we had to learn how to find joy in the journey, how to pivot, because we never knew what we were going to experience from, you know, 1 hour to the next for really, you know, the majority of his life, but especially those last few years. So I was able to, you know, really focus in on him and caring for him. But when he passed away, it was interesting because there was a relief I felt. You know, as a mother, it is so hard to watch your children suffer. But then I felt relief that he was out of that pain. And then I felt shame and guilt because I felt relief because he was out of that pain. It was just so confusing. And again, I had to learn how to reinvent myself. I had to learn to find hope. I had to learn to find ways to continue to go on. Because for so many years, even though I had other children, he was our third of four, you know, he took up a big chunk of our time and our concern. But what that gave me was an ability to see pain and suffering in others. All of a sudden, I could see this pain in other people because of the empathy, because of what I had experienced. And it was very real. It was so hard for me to see and to know what others were feeling because I had been there. And trying to learn how I could support, how I could help them know that I understood. And how can you go along your journey? I can't take that pain away, but I can help you. I can support you and be there. But about 6 months after he passed away, I kind of hit a crisis of my own. And my health, it was going downhill. You know, for so long, I think if we bury things in and that stress, it can wreak havoc on our bodies. And my body was crying for help. And it was, you know, wanting me to pay some attention to what was going on. And I had to look. I couldn't keep focusing outward. I had to look inward for a while. And that's when some real healing took place. That's when I had to look and to see and to feel it all. For some reason, I thought feelings were just meant to feel the happy things, to feel the joy, to feel the love. But we didn't have to feel the pain, the negative, the fear. Well, that's not true. We get to feel it all, and we're supposed to feel it all. And to take that and to help us propel us to the next stage or the next level. And so a lot of healing has taken place in my life. And it's come from, you know, the depths of despair of losing a child and seeing a child suffer. It's come through that depths of pain and suffering as I recognized and faced my own traumas. And then dealing with, you know, the PTSD and everything that went with it. and learning how to find joy and hope again in my life. And I was chatting with my husband last night, and I said, I don't think I've ever been happier than I am now. And he asked me why, and I said, I think it's because of Carrying the Load, which is the organization that we've started that really is to reach out and to help others to realize that they're not alone, that they're on the right path, that someone's been there before. And the joy and the happiness that's come into my life as I've started to reach out in this way, in a very different way than I ever imagined, it's amazing to me.
Well, I absolutely love your story, and it's 100%. You had a very wise soul in your son, because he understood the importance of being in the moment and enjoying his life, whether it was for another day or another 5 or 6 years. He understood that, and I think that is amazing, because we're all so busy or hung up on what could happen in 2 weeks and what's going on here and what's going on there, that what's going on right at that moment is getting completely missed. And you
Right.
guys really were able to hone in and enjoy all those beautiful moments with him. And look at what he's left. He's left a legacy with you guys to move forward and help others. So I applaud you on that, like sharing his legacy and his story.
Thank you. And it's something that, our other children have that legacy as well. As we rally together as a family to support him, somehow we were blessed to each take a piece of him with us in seeing the connections in others, seeing the goodness in others, and finding joy in connecting and helping others on life's journey.
I just, when I was on vacation, I was just telling Annette that I was just back from vacation. And while I was gone, I read this book that we had in our magazine, because I hadn't gotten to read the whole book. Actually, it's coming out in the next issue of the magazine. I hadn't gotten to read the whole book, and I took it with me, and it was called Quinn's Story. And it was about the struggle of a man who lost his son and what he did after in his honor to create not only beauty where his son had died so young, but to create hope for others that were struggling with the same sort of situation. And I coming from a family who, my mom lost my brother when he was 14, and our lives completely changed. And she never knew how to take that step. She lived in anger and resentment until the day she died. And I know she went to an early grave because of that. She was never able to step back into any kind of joy, or to even find, what could I do with this horrific thing that's happened in my life? What can I do to honor him? What can I do to make things better for others? And you've done that so beautifully. Can you tell us a little bit about the company you've created for him, or the organization?
Well, thank you. I appreciate those kind words, because it is a journey, and it's something that we all need to allow ourselves. I think to a degree we feel like we have to stay in that pain, and that we can't move forward. Now, don't get me wrong. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of him, that I don't miss him, but I also feel him near me, and I feel a very healthy, strong man who, the gifts that he had of loving and connecting are even so much greater. But so the company we have created is called Carrying the Load. The thing I love about Cairns, if you've been on a hike or you've been out on a trail, you might find these rocks that are stacked, and they're called cairns, Cairn, and they're trail markers. They're there to help you know which path to take. And when we were coming up with the name, quite honestly, we just thought it was kind of a fun name. We've always liked cairns. We've loved going on hikes as families and as a family, and we love Sedona, and we love some of these different areas where you could see a lot of these cairns. And as we started doing some research and understanding how anciently what they did, and these, helping people to know the way to go, helping people to, whether it was laying down their burdens or their offerings, there's so much symbolism behind Karens. And so here we are with this organization, this community that is there as we unite, and we just feel like, life's experiences are our greatest teachers. And as we share with one another, we become stronger. We become whole. We can help one another. I believe this life of ours is not meant to be something that's just, that we're not connected, that we're these individual people on this journey of our very own, that we don't impact one another or anything. I think we are very interconnected. I feel like that we are here to help one another and to help one another on our journey. And if there is something that I have experienced that can, like we said in the beginning, can help one person on their personal journey, then it will have all been worth it. Go ahead.
I know that when we first met and I saw your logo, which was a piled rocks, a Karen's, I was telling you about my trip to Peru. When we went to Machu Picchu, one of the places they take you is Condor Peak or something, but it's like 13 or 14,000 feet. It's one of the highest peaks there.
Yeah.
And on the way up, as we're driving up, by the way, you can barely breathe. Like if you're not used to that, it's very hard. There were piles of these everywhere. They were, as some places as far out as you could see, there were these little monuments basically.
Right.
And what we found out was that back in history, they carried these up the mountain on their back, and the heavier the rocks, the more that they were giving to their gods, or giving, I don't want to call it a sacrifice, but it was that struggle of getting those up there so that when they came back, they left their load up there and they come back freed and in a more spiritual place. And I promise you, I could not have carried a pebble in my pocket up that mountain. So when I think about them climbing that mountain with those carried on their backs, and the higher they got, the more prestige it was, right? The more prestigious it was. And then they take that walk back down without that load. And it's already better because you're going into a lower elevation, but you're not carrying that load with you. And they literally, that was their symbolism of leaving that there. And when I saw that, yes, it was beautiful.
And I love the symbolism of that they rose, right? They came up to a higher place to leave that load. And I think that's exactly what's happened with me and with you and so many others. As we rise with that load, then we can leave it, and we can learn those lessons. Those lessons stay with us. They come back down with us to where we're at. But we can offer those lessons, those tools to others on our path that we come in contact with. And the amazing thing with me that I've learned from, there was a gentleman that I met. He was in San Diego and he was on the beach and he was building these cairns, and he was from Peru, and trying to communicate and to understand. And he was trying to teach me how you can build a cairn where it has the stability that it won't fall, that even in a 50-mile-an-hour wind, it won't fall. And it was the fact that there was 3 points of contact, that when you brought it down, that's what gave him that stability. And so what are those 3 points of contact in our lives? And each of us need to go through, and we have to have that balance. And, whether it's a physical, it's a spiritual, it's an emotional balance. What does that mean to us? But as we have balance in our life, then we could have a 50-pound rock on top of our cairn, resting and balancing on a little stone, and it will stay there. And I think as we build and we grow and we learn and progress, as we, rise in elevation, that those things continue to grow and to learn and become really a trail marker for those who come behind and to follow us.
So while you were talking, I'm so fascinated with this. I looked up what the symbolization means, and it says stacked rocks, more commonly known as cairns, placed along the trail signify that you are on the right track. It is a marker guiding you to the correct path or trail in case where navigation becomes difficult and the trail may not be easy or lost. But it also, each rock can signify an intention of grace for thankfulness or offered up for another need. A stack of rocks is called a cairn, which I think is beautiful and completely like surrounds or embodies what it is that you do with it.
Well, thank you. It was interesting. I came home, it was just recently, and we had moved a few years ago, and I was unpacked. I still have a few boxes that I haven't unpacked. And in this box was this little cairn, a little stack, and I now have it on my desk. And I thought it was so interesting that years ago, and I think this was when I was in Sedona and at a gift shop, and I bought this little cairn just as a memory, as a token of that experience when we were in Sedona. But now it represents so much more to me as I have come to understand and learn really what it represents. And
So
to me, it's so much more.
who is the Karen the Load Foundation or company that you have? Who's that for? Like, what do they do with it?
Well, it is for, and I've been told you don't say this, but it's for everyone.
I would tell you don't say that, but I get where you're coming from.
But really, our niche market, if you will, are women. It's women who are trying to find themselves. It's women who are in pain. It's women who really just want to have peace and understanding in their lives and know that someone understands. It's a way to connect in a very safe environment. If people comment and it's negative, it's an immediate delete. We won't, that's part of the rules of the organization, is to be kind and supportive in this world that we live in, that there is so much divisiveness and hatred. It's like, no. This is where we are here to gather and help assist one another to become their better self. What is that they want to be? To find who they are, to find those gifts, to find that stability. So yes, it really truly is, in a nutshell, for women, and women who want something more.
I love that. Are people, even women who are maybe reinventing themselves? Because right now, I'm going to put it with the job market, but we are having to reinvent ourselves because we've either been not able to work for months, or we're not going to be able to go back to work because it's phasing into something new because they're adapting, right? How do you readapt when you get older? Like you feel like you've worked so hard. I worked really hard to become an interior designer, and my illness, I'm not going to say took it away from me. What it really did is open the doors to something that I love so much more. And because I was able to see that, it was easy for me to transition into it. But if you are stuck right now and you just want that fellowship or to run things across other intelligent women that are very positive and motivating and uplifting and want to see you rise, this is a perfect place to start connecting with them.
Well, thank you. It really is. And one of the things you talk about, reinventing yourself, and it's difficult. I was one that found comfort in what I was doing. I was satisfied with it in so many ways, and I didn't want to rock the boat, if you will, with things. And but like I said, when Reed passed away, it was like, here's this whole big part of me. This was my job, right? My job description was a caregiver too. As my job as a mother and a wife continued on, but this whole part of my heart and my daily worries and concerns and what do I do, that was gone and no more. And so it, in that reinventing part, I had to learn to look at myself a little bit too. And I think if we bring it back to COVID here, I've had to reinvent myself, and I think most of us have. I'm a people person. I love to connect. My husband always would tease me that I'm a professional lunch goer because I love to go to lunch with friends. And that was, a way to connect. And all of a sudden I can't go to lunch. We are all on, in quarantine, on isolation, because we're going to nip this in the bud. And so I can't just go to friends. And for me, it was something of a physical thing, and being in the same room and giving someone a hug. I love that. And I couldn't. It was taken away again. But what I have had to find in my life is that this has really been a gift. This very uncomfortable time where I had to unwrap this packaging I had. And all of a sudden, I had to learn to become a friend with myself, to a degree. I had to become my own best friend. I had to like who I was on the inside, every part of me. But what that's allowed me to do is to become, I think, even a better person, a better human being, in that, I've worked on those little things that maybe just bugged me before about myself, and that maybe I was a little quick to judge, or I was a little quick to, maybe I didn't have the most patience in the world. And now I find myself giving others so much more of the benefit of the doubt. We don't know what's going on inside them. And I'm giving myself that, which it has come through this gift of having to reinvent myself through this time.
I love what you're doing with your time at home. I think we should all be taking a note from that page. I want to know how people can find you, because I think you're amazing. And I do have some pretty amazing people come on this show. And I know I say all the time, I'm super excited. They're so amazing. But honestly, I vet them first. We have a talk before this. I check out their social media, and I want to make sure that they're who they say they are. And she was so incredible that I could not wait to get her on the show to share her story and to start connecting people with her. How do people find you?
Well, you are so sweet, and thank you. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us just, KarenTheLoad.com, at Karen the Load at Instagram. And then, Facebook at Karen the Load. We also will be coming out with an app in the next week or so that you can have things right there at your fingertips. We are all about connecting, and connecting in the way that you want to connect with us. We're trying to meet those needs and to find that, we are in our infancy. We really are. Karen the Load is, and it's been in development for years. That in the fact that I knew that this was something that we would do, I just didn't know how. And here we are, thanks to so much that's been happening, especially since COVID, that's propelled us forward in a way that it's expedited things. And so we would love to have you follow us. Please follow us and share us with your friends. We also have a podcast, and we have had some incredible guests, and we have many more guests lined up that I think you'll find, hope and value in spending some time with us there.
I love it. Plus, we're going to put all those links in the show notes, so you can go and grab them at any time and follow her. And hopefully she'll send me the app, and we can put the app link in there as well. So
I will. As soon as it's live, I will send you the link.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I love when people come and they have to get raw and expose themselves and share some of their darkest moments. But I love that it's always ends up with this beautiful light shining on what you're doing with it. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.